Hi again. It's time for another chapter of Charlotte's Web by Evie White. We are more than halfway down our book, and I have a fun little activity to go at the end of this one that won't be too long or too hard. So I hope you enjoy the chapter, and I'm excited to see what you do for our activity. This is chapter 14. It's called Dr. Dorian. The next day was Saturday. Fern stood at the kitchen sink, drying the breakfast dishes as her mother washed them. Mrs. Arabelle worked silently. She hoped Fern would go out and play with the other children, instead of heading for the Zuckerman's barn to sit and watch animals. "Charlotte is the best storyteller I've ever heard," said Fern, poking her dish towel into a cereal bowl. "Fern," said her mother sternly, "you must not invent things. You know spiders don't tell stories. Spiders can't talk." "Charlotte can," replied Fern. "She doesn't talk very loud, but she talks." "What kind of story did she tell?" asked Mrs. Arabelle. "Well," began Fern, "she told us about a cousin of hers who caught a fish in her web. Don't you think that's fascinating?" "Fern, dear, how would a fish get in a spider's web?" said Mrs. Arabelle. "You know it couldn't happen. You're making this up." "Oh, it happened all right," replied Fern. "Charlotte never fibs. This cousin of hers built a web across a stream. One day she was hanging around on the web, and a tiny fish leaped into the air and got tangled in the web. The fish was caught by one fin, Mother. Its tail was thrashing wildly and shining in the sun. Can't you just see the web, sagging dangerously under the weight of the fish? Charlotte's cousin kept slipping in, dodging out, and was beaten mercilessly over the head by the wildly thrashing fish, dancing in, dancing out, throwing—" "Fern," snapped her mother, "stop it. You're inventing these wild tales." "I'm not inventing," said Fern. "I'm just telling you the facts." "What finally happened?" asked her mother, whose curiosity had got the better of her. "Charlotte's cousin won. She wrapped the fish up, and she ate him when she was good and ready. Spiders have to eat, the same as the rest of us." "Yes, I suppose they do," said Mrs. Arabelle, vaguely. Means she's kind of just not really thinking about it too much. "Charlotte has another cousin who is a balloonist. She stands on her head. She lets out a line and is carried aloft in the wind. Mother, wouldn't you simply love to do that?" "Yes, I would, come to think of it," replied Mrs. Arabelle. "But Fern, darling, I wish you would play outdoors today, instead of going to your Uncle Homer's barn. Find some of your playmates and do something nice outdoors. You're spending too much time in that barn. It isn't good for you to be alone so much." "Alone?" said Fern. "Alone? No. My best friends are in the barn cellar. It's a very sociable place. Not at all lonely." Fern disappeared after a while, walking down the road toward Zuckerman's. Her mother dusted the sitting room. As she worked, she kept thinking about Fern. It didn't seem natural for a little girl to be so interested in animals. Finally, Mrs. Arabelle made up her mind that she would call old Dr. Dorian and ask his advice. She got in the car and drove to his office in the village. Dr. Dorian had a thick beard. He was glad to see Mrs. Arabelle and gave her a comfortable chair. "It's about Fern," she explained. "Fern spends entirely too much time in the Zuckerman's barn. It doesn't seem normal. She sits on a milk stool in the corner of the barn cellar, near the pig pen, and watches animals. Hour after hour. She just sits and listens." Dr. Dorian leaned back and closed his eyes. "How enchanting," he said. "It must be real nice and quiet down there. Homer has some sheep, hasn't he?" "Yes," said Mrs. Arabelle. "But it all started with that pig we let Fern raise on a bottle. She calls him Wilbur. Homer bought the pig, and ever since it left our place, Fern has been going to her uncle's to be near it. I've been hearing things about that pig," said Dr. Dorian, opening his eyes. "They say he's quite a pig." "Have you heard about the words that appeared in the spider's web? Asked Mrs. Arabel, nervously. Yes, replied the doctor. Well, do you understand it? Asked Mrs. Arabel. Understand what? Do you understand how there could be any writing in a spider's web? Oh, no, said Dr. Dorian. I don't understand it. But, for that matter, I don't understand how a spider learned to spin a web in the first place. When the words appeared, everyone said they were a miracle. But nobody pointed out that the web itself is also a miracle. What's so miraculous about a spider's web? Asked Mrs. Arabel. I don't see why you say a web is a miracle. It's just a web. Have you ever tried to spin one? Asked Dr. Dorian. Mrs. Arabel shifted uneasily in her chair. No, she replied, but I can crochet a doily, and I can knit a sock. Sure, said the doctor, but somebody taught you, didn't they? My mother taught me. Well, who taught a spider? A spider knows how to spin a web without any instructions from anybody. Don't you think that could be a miracle? I suppose so, said Mrs. Arabel. I never looked at it that way before. Still, I don't understand how those words got into the web. I don't understand it, and I don't like what I don't understand. None of us do, said Dr. Dorian, sighing. I'm a doctor. Doctors are supposed to understand everything. But I don't understand everything, and I don't intend to let it worry me. Mrs. Arabel fidgeted, and she wiggled around. Fern says the animals talk to each other, Dr. Dorian. Do you believe animals talk? I never heard one say anything, he replied, but that proves nothing. It is quite possible that an animal has spoken to me, and I didn't catch it because I wasn't paying attention. Children pay better attention than grown-ups. If Fern says that the animals in Zuckerman's barn talk, I'm ready to believe her. Perhaps if people talked less, and animals would talk more. People are incessant talkers. That means they don't stop. They always talk. I can give you my word on that. Well, I feel better about Fern, said Mrs. Arabel. You don't think I need to worry about her? Does she look well? Asked the doctor. Oh, yes. Is her appetite good? And is she hungry? Oh, yes, she's always hungry. Does she sleep well at night? Yeah. Then don't worry, said the doctor. Do you ever think she'll start thinking about something besides pigs and sheep and geese and spiders? How old is Fern? She's 8. Well, said Dr. Dorian, I think she will always love animals, but I doubt she spends her entire life in Homer Zuckerman's barn. How about boys? Does she know any boys? She knows Henry Fussy, said Mrs. Arabel. Dr. Dorian closed his eyes again and went into deep thought. Henry Fussy. He mumbled. Remarkable. Well, I don't think you have anything to worry about. Let Fern associate with her friends in the barn if she wants to. That means let her play with them. I would say, offhand, that spiders and pigs were as interesting as Henry Fussy. I think the day will come when Henry will drop some chance remark that catches Fern's attention. So he means like Henry's going to say something and Fern will want to play with him too. It's amazing how children change from year to year. How's Avery? He asked, opening his eyes wide. Oh, Avery, chuckled Mrs. Arabel. Avery's always fine. Of course, he gets into poison ivy, and he gets stung by wasps and bees, and he brings frogs and snakes home and breaks everything he puts his hands on. But he's fine. Good, said the doctor. Mrs. Arabel said goodbye and thanked Dr. Dorian very much for his advice. She felt greatly relieved. So that's the end of chapter 14. And you're going to have 2 jobs today. Your first job is it's the same as always. You have to check your old prediction and make a new prediction. Now, this chapter kind of mixed it up. It wasn't even about Wilbur. It wasn't about the farm. It was about Fern. So I don't expect you to know that. So it's definitely okay if your prediction is wrong. I didn't know the next chapter was going to be about Fern and not Wilbur. So that's okay. And you have a second job today. Your other job today is I want you to think of, let's say, 10 words that would be good words for Charlotte to spin in her web to make everyone think that Wilbur is amazing and that they shouldn't eat him. They already used the words some pig to tell you that he was some important pig. They already used the word terrific, and they used the word radiant. So you want to think about words that mean something is great. Great could even be one of your words. You want to tell the farmers from Charlotte, you pretend you're Charlotte, you want to tell the farmers what makes Wilbur amazing and why you don't want them to eat him for Christmas. So you have to check your old prediction, make a new prediction, and I need 10 words that Charlotte could write in her web. You can just make them a list, but if you want to draw out the web with the word inside, that's even better. That's a bonus, and I think it would look really neat. So you don't have to draw them in a web if you don't want to. Like a little web, it's got strings, write the word inside. But if you don't want to do that and you just want to list them, that's okay. But I want 10 good words that would be to save Wilbur. So do you think you should use the word tasty? No, you don't want them to eat them. You think you should use bacon? No. You don't want any words that talk about food taste, how tasty he might be. You want to focus on words that talk about how great he is. And remember, great could be one of your words. So good luck with that. I hope you have fun with this task. And remember, if you want to draw them in the web, go for it. And I'll see you next time. Bye.